In his book, Profiles of the Future, Arthur C. Clarke famously said, "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." That line alone has pretty much been the basis for most of the builds throughout my career. Hi, I'm Rob Reynolds, creative technologist here at SparkFun, and today I want to talk about what goes into some of my builds, what happens behind them, not just the builds themselves. You can go to any number of my blogs or tutorials and find out the parts list and the code and all that. But I want to dig deeper than that. I want to share with you where the idea comes from, why this, why I create many of the projects I do. I came up building for the theater, for the arts, so oftentimes I was literally tasked with making magic from technology. Scrooge's bedroom has to look like the clock is spinning on its own, or the curtains are blowing, or lamps are turning on and off, or things are moving on the bedroom table. Stuff like that. How do you make that happen? Or a seance. You know, the actors have their hands on the table and all of a sudden the ghost has to knock on the table and move it about and eventually knock it over, all without an actor going, "That's magic." That's what I was tasked with creating. And it's a great challenge and a ton of fun, especially once you really start delving into the technology behind it. For me, one of the important parts of creating magic is using wireless technology. If you can make something happen without anybody touching it, without anybody being around it, that's magic. That's what people are going to believe is magic. I mean, look at Disney, look at their Imagineers. Stuff happens wirelessly. Have you seen their Spider-Man, their actual full-size Spider-Man that this thing just flips in the air? It's basically doing a trapeze act without anybody touching it. No wires, on its own, using sensors. That's magic. Another important part is making it not look like technology. You create the technology, you make it work, but then mask it as something else. For my Indiana Jones spoof, I did the little pillar on which his golden idol sits, and the technology is completely hidden inside it. When I removed the golden idol, the pillar sank, seemingly on its own, seemingly magic. And that's, like I said, that's kind of the basis of what I do. I like to create things that do what isn't expected of them. We just released a person sensor. It can tell when a person is there, it can detect a face, and in his example, Pete Warden has a photograph. It just looks like a photograph, but when the detector sees a face, it will interact, it will speak to that face. Otherwise, it just looks like a photo. That's what I mean by create something unexpected. Additionally, I like to create something where there's absolutely no need to create anything, just because it would be cool to do. Take this, for example. This idea came during the pandemic when we kept hearing social distancing, don't get too close to anybody. So I thought, well, I don't want to, have tons of germy little kids coming up to me. I mean, kids are steamy and sticky as it is. But now with this added facet, we should keep further away from them. And I could have just thrown candy to kids. Hey, kids, I could sit on my porch and throw candy at people as they went by. But why do that when I can create something cool that does it for me? And that's where this started. So the idea for this build, as you can probably tell, came from batting cages. I enjoy batting cages. Swinging at a ball as it's going by is a nice stress reliever. Back when I was on the road, a friend of mine and I had gone on our day after some batting cages. We're just hitting some balls around, talking, having a good time. And he goes, "Hey, you want to try it on pro?" So we did. And my friend George puts it on pro, gets up there with the bat, and the thing goes boom, and hits the wall behind him before he even has time to move. He just started laughing, unable to, he didn't hit a thing. 10 balls, 0 hits, didn't even touch the ball going by. It was a lot of fun. Anyway, batting cages are where this idea came from. And if you know batting cages, or even pitching machines, you know that there are two types. There are the single arm type, and they're also the kind with usually a pair of tires spinning, and that shoots the ball out as well. I tried the pair of tires actually on a previous build to shoot peeps for Easter. I was using super cheap motors and it wasn't great. It may have worked, but I think it probably would have squished the candy bars coming through. So that's why I went with the single arm design. Now, as far as components, it's pretty straightforward. You need some type of motor, something probably heavy duty, and that's why I went with a stepper motor to run the arm, because the arm is under spring tension. You need a controller. I used our Scala board from last year, basically an ESP32 board, and really that's it. I mean, I've got a servo here that's going to move his head back and forth. I have another servo that I'm hoping eventually will be able to operate a hopper to feed small candy bars into the feeder here. Currently isn't working, still working on designs. It's not as easy as making a hopper for baseballs, but it will happen. So once I had the parts, it was fairly simple to take some of the example code we had And you can find all this on the blog post I wrote about this build, and just tweak it a little bit. Basically, one of the examples uses two ESP32s, and I use ESP now. When you push a button on one, it sends a signal to the other, and basically just says, hey, I received a signal, and repeats that back. And all I did was expand that with one of our stepper motor examples. Hey, I received a signal, now spin a stepper motor 1 full revolution. And really, a lot of builds are that simple, just taking what we have and tweaking it slightly, just making it do one more thing. And then the next iteration, one more thing, and then one more thing after that. And eventually, this will be a full-sized pitcher zombie throwing candy at people using a fastball, a curveball, and a slider. All right, maybe not that bad, but that's the idea behind increasing builds. Make it so you can continue it to grow. I don't know that I've ever considered build completely finished, because every time I think I'm done, I see something else I can add to it, something else I can tweak or make it better or cooler or more ridiculous, which is usually the latter. Another really important part for me for builds is the ability to create objects, create things. I use a 3D printer extensively in just about every build I do. Like for this, I've got the little holder here, I've got the hand here that picks up the candy. I had to create a mount for the stepper motor because one didn't exist. I tried to buy one from a couple of my sources and they said this size was discontinued. That was no good for me. So I just threw up a sketch and 3D printed it and had it in a couple of hours. It's really important to be able to fabricate. You don't necessarily need to use a 3D printer, although I do recommend them highly. But if you can create it out of cardboard, out of clay, whatever your medium is, if you can carve it out of wood, I've seen some really cool projects that were carved from wood with electronics inside, and they look gorgeous. They're absolutely stunning. But whatever you can do. For me, I've been working in 3D for years now, literally decades. And so for me, it's fairly easy to whip up a design, throw it on a 3D printer, and have it in my hand in a couple hours. And that is one of the most amazing things to me about what we get to do now as far as builds go. If you need something and it doesn't exist, or you need it super customized, you can create it. And that's really important. So if you haven't guessed by now or haven't seen many of my videos, a lot of my aim in building projects is to entertain or amuse. If I can make something ridiculous, if I can make people scratch their heads, if I can, muscle sensors. I could have just flexed it and had a light turn on, but I went a little further than that. And that's my personality coming out through my builds. Ridiculousness is my forte. And now, we did a video on the project itself and went into everything it took to make it happen, but we really didn't show it in the wild. I think we should do that. So here we are in suburbia in beautiful Colorado on, let's say, Halloween night. We're waiting for the kids because, come on, the joy of Halloween for an adult is seeing the kids in their cute costumes. Now we sit and we wait. Oh, look, here come some kids now.
Trick or treat? Trick or treat. Oh, that's nice. Oh, what the heck? Like, do I catch it? Oh! My turn. Yeah.
So there you go, kid tested, nerd approved. Now, was this build really necessary? Not at all. I could have sat on the porch and just thrown candy bars to kids as they came by. But on a coolness scale of 1 to 10, me throwing candy bars is about a 0.75, whereas this thing throwing candy bars, easily a 6. So there's a little look behind the curtain at my inspiration, where this came from, a little bit about how my brain works, and the end result. So until next time, happy haunting. Oh yeah. I enjoy batting cages. I can remember, should I stray? I'm going to stray here. I have a story. Technology is Oh yeah, we can show a clip of Spider-Man there, if you want. In his book, I want to make one of those. I'll be back in a year. Yeah, right. I'll be in my office for a year.